Udi whispers in the snow. December 16th, 1944. The Ardennes Forest, Belgium. Dawn creeps in like a thief, grey and unforgiving, through the skeletal branches of pine trees heavy with fresh snow. Lieutenant Elias Kane huddles in the frozen foxhole, his breath fogging the air in sharp bursts. The wind howls low, carrying the faint crackle of a field radio from the command post 50 yards back. His gloved fingers ache around the grip of his M1 Garand, the metal biting cold, even through the wool. Around him, the men of Easy Company, 2nd Battalion, 106th Infantry Division, shift uneasily in their positions along the thinly held line. It's quiet, too quiet for the Western Front this deep in winter. No birds, no rustle of wildlife, just the occasional snap of a twig under boot, or the distant rumble of a supply truck on the icy road to St. Vith. Elias wipes frost from his binoculars, scanning the misty valley ahead. The Losheim Gap stretches out like a scar in the earth, a natural corridor the brass back in Bastogne always called a soft spot. His platoon, 35 souls, down from 42 after the Hurtgen Forest meat grinder, holds the forward edge here, part of the First Army's extended flank. They're green replacements mostly, farm boys from Iowa and Ohio, their faces pale under helmets crusted with rime. Private Tommy Riley, the kid from Des Moines with the perpetual grin, mutters a curse as he adjusts the tripod for the .30 caliber machine gun. "Feels like we're sitting ducks out here, Lieutenant," he says, voice low, eyes darting to the tree line opposite. "Keep it down, Riley," Elias whispers back, though he feels the same knot in his gut. Intelligence reports from Schaff have been spotty, rumors of German build-ups east of the Rhine, but nothing concrete. Patton's Third Army is tied up south, and the 99th Division to their north is stretched thin. Elias's orders are simple: hold the line, report any movement. But holding feels like waiting for the axe to fall. He thinks of his wife, Sarah, back in Pittsburgh, the last letter tucked in his breast pocket, promising she'd wait out the war. That was before Normandy, before the endless slog turned hope to habit. A crackle erupts from the radio behind him, Sergeant Harlan's voice cutting through the static. "Lieutenant Kane, this is command. Sit rep?" Elias crawls back, snow soaking his wool trousers, and grabs the handset. The wind whistles through the wire, making it hum. "All quiet on the gap, sir. Visibility low, but no signs of Kraut patrols. Morale steady." A lie on the morale part. Last night, Corporal Ruiz confessed he'd been seeing ghosts in the fog, echoes of his brother lost at Anzio. The sergeant pauses, then, "Copy that. Higher ups say it's a quiet sector, just another frozen hell. Stay frosty." Elias nods to himself, handing the radio off. Stay frosty. Easy for them to say, sipping coffee in a heated tent while his men shiver in slit trenches barely deep enough to shield from shrapnel. He returns to the line, pausing by Private First Class Lena Markov. Wait. No, that's not right. Women aren't in the line here, but in his exhaustion, faces blur. It's Lena's brother, Marco, the Polish-American with the scarred cheek from a bayonet scrape in Sicily. "You smell that, sir?" Marco asks, nose wrinkling. Elias sniffs, acrid like diesel and cordite, faint but growing on the breeze. Before he can respond, a low rumble builds, vibrating through the ground like thunder rolling in from the east. The men freeze. Binoculars whip up. Through the swirling mist, shadows emerge, dark shapes slinking from the German side of the line. Not patrols. Tanks. King Tigers. Their massive 80 mm guns swiveling like predators' eyes. Treads churning the snow into mud. Flanking them, half-tracks loaded with SS troops. The dreaded 1st Panzer Division markings glinting under camouflage nets. Elias's heart slams against his ribs. "Contact, enemy armor bearing 030. Sound off." Alarms rip through the morning, whistles, shouts, the clatter of rifles chambering rounds. Riley swings the 30 cal on its mount, tracer rounds stitching the air toward the lead Tiger. The beast doesn't flinch. Its turret traverses with a mechanical groan, and the world erupts. The shell screams in, exploding 20 feet left, showering them with dirt and splintered wood. Elias dives, yelling, "Fall back to secondary positions! Cover fire!" But the radio's already screaming. Sergeant Harlan's voice frantic. "Kane, report! What the hell is—" Another barrage. The ground heaves, and Elias sees it, the front buckling already. Men scream as shrapnel rips through the line. Riley's gun jams, his body jerking as bullets find him. Marco fires his bar in bursts, but the Germans pour forward, Panzer Grenadiers leaping from half-tracks, MP40s chattering. Elias grabs the radio, static drowning his words. "This is Kane. Major enemy assault, armor and infantry, Losheim Gap. Request immediate support." No reply, just the roar of engines closing in. You can almost feel the cold seep into your bones as Elias scrambles, dragging a wounded man by the collar. The order comes crackling through, Colonel Weaver's voice from Battalion HQ. Strained and urgent. "Kane, pull back. Regroup at the ridge. That's an order. Fall back." The words hit like a gut punch. They've held this ground for weeks, bleeding for every inch, and now, retreat. Elias signals the survivors, 15, maybe less, slipping into the trees as the Tigers grind forward, their cannons booming like Judgment Day. But as they withdraw, Elias glances back. The line isn't holding, it's shattering. Gaps widen where platoons once stood firm, and through the chaos he sees the truth. The front is collapsing, minute by minute, under the weight of Hitler's Ardennes gamble. The quiet sector, a lie. The war's fury has found them, and there's no turning back. If stories like this pull you in, hit that subscribe button to catch the next part. Word count: 872. Shadows of the Ridge. The snow churns underfoot as Elias Kane leads his ragged platoon through the Ardennes' frozen underbelly, branches whipping at their faces like vengeful spirits. It's still December 16th, 1944. But the dawn has twisted into a midday nightmare, the sky a bruised grey that spits sleet into their eyes. The rumble of King Tiger engines echoes behind them, a relentless growl that drowns out the men's laboured breaths. Elias's boots sink into drifts up to his knees, each step a battle against the cold that claws deeper than any wound. He glances back, only 12 men now, faces smeared with mud and fear, hauling the wounded on improvised stretchers of pine boughs and rifle slings. Private Riley's body lies back there, crumpled by the 30 cal. His grin forever frozen. "Keep moving, ridge is just ahead," Elias shouts over the wind, his voice hoarse from yelling orders. The secondary positions Colonel Weaver mentioned, a hasty line of foxholes and felled logs along the high ground overlooking the Our River, feel like a mirage in this white hell. Sergeant Harlan flanks him, lugging the radio pack that's grown heavier with every shell burst. Static hisses from the set, broken by frantic voices from other units. The 422nd Infantry reporting overrun positions, calls for artillery that never come. The 106th Division's comms net is fraying, wires snapped by treads or buried under avalanches of snow. You can taste the panic in the air, metallic like blood, as a Panzer Grenadier burr skitters through the trees to their left. Bullets chip bark, sending icy shards flying. Corporal Marco dives behind a boulder, his bar barking in response, the 30-06 rounds cracking like whips. "They're closing fast, Lieutenant. Half-tracks on our 6. One of the vehicles, STKFZ 251s, their canvas sides flapping, bursts from the tree line, MG-42s chattering death. Elias drops to a knee, sighting his Garand. The rifle bucks against his shoulder, and he sees the driver slump, the half-track veering into a drift before exploding in a bloom of orange flame. But it's not enough. More shadows swarm. Foot soldiers in white camouflage, the 277th Volksgrenadier Division by their insignia, methodical and merciless. They crest the ridge at last, gasping as the ground levels into a narrow shelf scarred by previous skirmishes. Trenches here are shallow, half filled with slush, manned by stragglers from neighbouring companies. A .50 caliber on a half-track mount, salvaged from a wrecked jeep, chatters welcome fire, forcing the Germans to ground. Elias waves his men in, barking, "Dig in! Use the logs for cover!" They scramble, shovels scraping frozen earth, while he grabs the radio from Harlan. "This is Kane, Easy Company. We've reached the ridge, taking fire. What's the sitrep from battalion?" Weaver's voice crackles back, edged with strain. "Hold if you can, Kane. 28th Division's falling back from the south. Elsenborn's our anchor now. Artillery inbound. 5 mics. 5 minutes." Elias curses under his breath. The Tigers are already probing, their 80mm shells whistling overhead like banshees, cratering the slope below. One hits a cluster of pines, the blast wave flattening men like wheat. Marco drags a screaming private, Jenkins, leg mangled by shrapnel, into a hole, applying a tourniquet with shaking hands. "Hang on, kid, Doc's coming." But no Doc. The aid station at Schönberg was evacuated hours ago, or so the rumors fly. Elias peers over the lip, binoculars fogging in the sleet. The valley below is a cauldron, American jeeps fleeing in reverse, their 50 cals blazing futilely at the Panzer spearhead. Kampfgruppe Piper's SS boys, Otto Skorzeny commandos in captured US gear sowing confusion, are everywhere, capturing GIs at checkpoints with shouts of "Halt!" in perfect English. Elias spots one such trick gone wrong. A disguised half-track, ambushed by a bazooka team, the rockets streaking in to punch through the engine block, but the tide's turning dark. The Losheim Gap, that soft spot, is a floodgate now, Germans pouring through like the Siegfried Line never fell. A lull hits, eerie and brief. The men huddle, sharing K-rations gone soggy, canned cheese and hardtack that sticks to teeth. Private Ellis, a lanky kid from Cincinnati with frostbitten ears, whispers, "They said the war was winding down, Lieutenant. Paris liberated, Rhine crossed. What the hell is this?" Elias has no answer, just claps his shoulder. "Fight now, ask later." He thinks of the briefings back in September. After the breakout from Normandy, the push to Berlin by Christmas. Lies, all of it. Schaeff's complacency, demobilization talks, green troops rushed in, has left them exposed. His own platoon, blooded in the Hurtgens' death factory, knows better. But these replacements, they're breaking already, eyes hollow. The radio sparks to life again. "All units, this is division. Enemy breakthrough confirmed. Codename Wacht am Rhein. Fuel dumps hit. Meuse, bridges, priority. Fall back to St. Vith if pressed." Fall back again. Elias's jaw tightens. St. Vith, 20 miles west, a crossroads town that's the 106th's linchpin. If it falls, the whole First Army's flank crumbles, but holding here means buying time, bleeding for the 82nd Airborne rushing up from the south. He relays the order, watching faces fall. Harlan mutters, "We're the cork, sir, and they're pouring the wine." Then it starts anew, artillery inbound, but not theirs. Nebelwerfers scream from the east, the screaming Mimis laying a barrage that turns the ridge into a churning sea of earth and fire. Shells walk up the line, one obliterating the 50-call nest in a geyser of snow. Elias flattens, debris raining down as screams pierce the din. Marco fires blindly into the smoke, his bar clicking empty. Germans crest the slope now, bayonets fixed on Kar 98Ks, faces blackened with camo paint. Hand to hand erupts. Elias clubs one with his rifle butt, the crack of skull against wood sickening. "Grenades! Flush 'em out!" In the frenzy, Elias sees the ridge fracturing just like the front below. Men slip away into the woods, discipline unraveling under the onslaught. A tiger tops the rise, its cannon belching flame point blank, vaporizing a foxhole. The order echoes in his mind, fall back. But to where? As he hauls Ellis toward the rear, a runner from the 423rd stumbles up wild-eyed. "Lieutenant, battalion's cut off. Krauts between us and the river. The collapse isn't minutes away. It's here, swallowing them whole, and the Ardennes' winter jaws are only tightening. Fractured retreat. The Ardennes trails twist like veins under the relentless sleet, turning the withdrawal into a gauntlet of ice and shadow. December 16th, 1944, bleeds into late afternoon, the weak sun dying behind clouds pregnant with more snow. Lieutenant Elias Kane stumbles forward, his platoon reduced to a ghost of itself. 8 men now, shadows hauling rifles, and what scraps of gear they can carry. The ridge behind them is a smouldering ruin, acrid smoke curling up like funeral pyres, mingling with the stench of cordite and ruptured earth. Elias's lungs burn from the cold air, each breath a rasp that echoes the men's ragged gasps. Sergeant Harlan trails close, the radio pack slung low on his back, its antenna bent like a broken finger. Static whispers from it, fragmented reports painting a picture of doom. The 424th Infantry cut off south of the Aue, the 28th Division buckling under Piper's panzers racing for the Meuse. "Stay off the roads," Elias mutters, veering them into denser woods where the pines offer scant cover but hide them from the Luftwaffe's occasional Stukas, their Jericho trumpets wailing overhead. The order from battalion, fall back to St. Vith, rings hollow now. Runners bring tales of roadblocks, American columns ambushed by those bastard commandos in GI uniforms. Private Ellis limps beside him, his frost-bitten ears wrapped in a bloodied bandage, leaning on his M1 like a crutch. "Heard the 14th Cavalry Group got hit hard at Recht, sir. Krauts in our jeep, speaking English. Shot up a whole convoy." Elias nods grimly, the knot in his stomach twisting tighter. He's seen it himself, a half-track disguised as a US weapons carrier, MG-42 hidden under canvas, mowing down a fuel truck before vanishing into the mist. You feel the ground tremble faintly as they push west, the distant thunder of 80mm guns reminding you that the collapse isn't contained, it's spreading like gangrene through the First Army's lines. Corporal Marco scouts ahead, his scarred face a mask of determination. Bar at the ready. He signals back, clear for now. But the forest betrays them, a snap of branches ahead, and chaos erupts. German paratroopers, Fallschirmjägers from the 3rd Division, elite and airborne tough, materialize from the underbrush, their FG-42 rifles chattering in controlled bursts. Bullets whip through the trees, splintering bark that stings like hornets. "Ambush! Down!" Elias yells, diving into a snowbank, his Garand coming up to snap off shots. One Fallschirmjäger drops, clutching his throat, but the others press, grenades arcing in lazy loops. The blast shreds the air, shrapnel pinging off trunks and tearing into Harlan's leg. He screams, the radio tumbling into the slush. Elias crawls to him, dragging the sergeant behind a fallen log as Marco lays down, suppressing fire. The bar's cyclic rate a comforting roar. "Cover me!" Elias shouts, fumbling for the radio handset amid the snow. Static, then a voice, Captain Reynolds from Regimental HQ, barely audible over the din. "Kane, report position. 106th's forming a perimeter at St. Vith. Link up if you can. Panzers everywhere, don't trust anything in US markings." Elias keys the mic, bullets thudding into the log inches away. "This is easy, company remnants, ambushed 2 miles east of Vielsalm, taking casualties, request air support." Laughter almost escapes him. The skies belong to the Luftwaffe today, their FW-190s strafing anything that moves. The fight drags, brutal and intimate. Ellis fires his rifle one-handed, dropping a German probing their flank, but takes a round through the shoulder for it, slumping with a gurgle. Marco charges forward in a desperate bayonet rush, skewering one enemy before a pistol shot spins him around. He falls, gasping, blood bubbling from his lips. "Lieutenant, tell Lena. I made it home." Elias reaches him too late, the words choking in his throat as the Fallschirmjägers withdraw, melting back into the woods like smoke. Victory? No, just survival, bought with 3 more graves. They press on at dusk, the forest darkening to ink, guided by a compass and the faint glow of flares miles away. St. Vith looms in rumors, a rail hub turned fortress, the 7th Armored Division's Shermans rumbling in to plug the gap. But the road there is a graveyard. Wrecked M4 tanks with tracks blown off, their crews frozen in the turrets, and burned-out half-tracks from the 285th Field Artillery, 105mm howitzers twisted like pretzels. Elias's group stumbles upon a mixed column, stragglers from the 2nd Division, engineers with Bangalore torpedoes slung over shoulders, and a few red-faced MPs directing traffic that isn't there. You Kane's boys. A major barks, his face gaunt under a steel helmet. Good, link with the 81st Engineer Battalion. We're blowing bridges behind us to slow the bastards. Night falls hard, the temperature plunging to where breath freezes on moustaches. They huddle in a bombed-out barn on the outskirts of Vilsalm, sharing cigarettes and morphine sirets with the engineers. The radio, patched by Harlan despite his wound, crackles with dire news. Piper's Kampfgruppe has bypassed them, racing for Ligneville, capturing the 106th's own division HQ at Gerak. General Middleton's 8th Corps is in full retreat, the Ghost Front shattered. Elias stares into the flames of a small fire, the warmth mocking the chill in his bones. Orders filter down. Hold pockets, delay the advance. But delay for what? The Meuse is 50 miles west, and Hitler's panzers are fueled by desperation, their long 75mm Labaduke 42 guns outranging anything the GIs can muster. A runner bursts in, snow-caked and wild. "Lieutenant, word from the 424th. They're encircled at Schonberg. Kraut's closing the noose. Artillery's zeroed on the roads." Encircled. The word hangs like a noose. Elias stands, stamping out the fire. "Mount up. We punch through to St. Vith before dawn." But as they slip into the night, the horizon lights with the orange blooms of exploding ammo dumps, and the front's collapse whispers closer, a tide no fallback can outrun. The Ardennes isn't just fighting back, it's devouring them one frozen step at a time. The night clings to the Ardennes like a shroud, December 17th, 1944, turning the march to St. Vith into a blind stumble through ink-black woods. Lieutenant Elias Kane leads his shattered remnants, 5 men now, ghosts in oversized greatcoats, along deer paths that twist toward the faint pulse of gunfire on the horizon. The air hangs heavy, with the scent of pine sap and distant burning rubber, the cold so profound it numbs the edges of pain. Elias's fingers, raw from gripping his M1 Garand, fumble with a compass whose needle wavers like a drunkard's promise. Sergeant Harlan limps at his side, leg bandaged with strips from a dead man's shirt, the radio pack a dead weight dragging him down. Its batteries are fading, spitting only bursts of static laced with desperate calls. This is 7th Armoured, Kraut's at the rail yard. Request P-47's over. Private Ellis, shoulder slung in a makeshift brace, wheezes behind them, his breath shallow and wet. The others, 2 engineers from the 81st Battalion, burly guys named Kowalski and Ruiz, toting satchel charges for bridge demo, flank the group, eyes scanning the shadows. No words pass. They've learned silence saves lives. The encirclement rumors gnaw at Elias like frostbite. The 106th, 422nd and 423rd Regiments, trapped east of the hour, pounded by 150mm guns from the 5th Panzer Army. Piper's SS Wolves are loose, their Panther tanks, sleek killers with sloped armor shrugging off bazookas, slashing supply lines, while the 2nd Panzer Division probes north toward Elsenborn Ridge. You sense the noose tightening as a flare pops overhead, bathing the trail in sickly magnesium light. They freeze, hearts hammering, as silhouettes flicker. American, thank God, a patrol from the 7th Armoured's Combat Command B, their M4 Sherman tanks idling like steel behemoths on the road to St. Vith. "Halt! Identify!" A voice challenges from the lead tank's cupola, the 50 cal swiveling their way. Elias raises his hand slowly. Lieutenant Kane, Easy Company 106th Infantry, coming from Vilsam, link-up request. The tank commander, a grizzled major with a cigar stub clenched in his teeth, eyes them warily through binoculars. 106th? Thought you boys were ghosts already. Climb on. Town's a hornet's nest. Krauts hit at dawn. They pile onto the Sherman's rear deck. The engines rumble, vibrating through their bones as the column grinds forward. St. Vith emerges from the gloom, a cluster of stone buildings around a vital crossroads, rail lines snaking like veins to supply dumps stacked with 105mm shells and jerry cans of fuel. But it's no sanctuary. The skyline glows with tracer fire and the ground shudders from incoming 88s. The 7th Armored has dug in, foxholes ringed by sandbags, half-tracks mounting recoilless rifles, and engineers rigging the Sour River bridges with Composition C. General Bruce Clark's voice booms from a command tent as they pass. "Hold this junction, or the whole corps goes under. No retreat." Elias slides off near a makeshift CP. A gutted schoolhouse buzzing with radiomen and maps pinned to walls. Colonel Sladen of the 106th 424th greets him curtly, face lined like cracked leather. "Kane? Good. We need every rifle. Your platoon's the tip of the 3rd Battalion's line. Sector along the rail embankment. Piper's boys are 15 miles west, but the 18th Volksgrenadiers pushing hard from the east. Orders. Delay 'em till the 82nd Airborne relieves." Elias salutes, stomach churning. Delay, that's code for die in place. He leads his men to the line, a ragged trench of frozen mud overlooked by a water tower, pocked with bullet holes. They drop in beside a 30 cal nest, manned by tankers from the 31st Tank Battalion, their faces soot-streaked under helmets. Dawn breaks bloody, the sun a red smear through smoke. The assault hits like a hammer, German infantry from the 62nd Volksgrenadier Division swarming the outskirts, supported by Studgy 3 assault guns, their low-slung hulls belching fire from 75mm cannons. Mortars whistle in, potato masher grenades sailing over the parapet to erupt in geysers of dirt. Elias presses against the trench wall, barking, "Open fire!" Bazookas up. Ruiz shoulders the rocket launcher, the shape-charge warhead streaking toward a Stoogie lumbering across a field. It connects with a hollow thunk, flames erupting from the tracks, but the gun keeps firing, its shell shearing the water tower in half. Water cascades down, freezing instantly into a deadly slick. Harlan mans the radio, calling for support. "Fire mission. Coordinates Golf Tango 42, over." Artie from the 275th Field Artillery Battalion answers, 105s thumping in the rear, but the barrage falls short, churning American positions instead. Friendly fire, the cruel joke of war. Ellis, feverish and pale, triggers his Garand in steady pops, dropping a grenadier mid-charge. But the tide surges. SS Panzer Grenadiers in camouflage smocks vault the embankment. Schmeisser's spitting lead. Hand-to-hand chaos ensues. Ilias parries a bayonet thrust with his rifle stock, driving his elbow into the man's throat. Kowalski hurls a satchel charge, the blast ripping limbs from torsos, but takes a burst to the chest for it, slumping lifeless. The line buckles under the weight. A Sherman from the 7th Armored rolls up the rail line, its 75mm pounding away. But a Panzerfaust rocket punches through the turret ring, cooking off the ammo inside in a cataclysmic bloom. Crewmen bail out, one dragging himself toward the trench before a MG-42 cuts him down. Elias grabs Harlan's arm amid the screams. "Fall back to the church! Regroup there!" But the order sticks in his throat. Colonel Sladen's runner arrives, yelling over the din, "No fallback!" Division says, "Hold, or we're flanked." Hold. The word tastes like ash. Piper's main force is bypassing south, but these Volksgrenadiers are the anvil, smashing the pocket shut. By noon, the CP falls silent. Sladen wounded, comms severed by a direct hit. Elias's sector is a charnel house, bodies tangled in barbed wire, the C-30 cal silent, its crew shredded. Only he, Harlan, Ellis, and Ruiz remain, ammo low, faces black with powder burns. They withdraw anyway, slipping through back alleys choked with civilians fleeing in horse carts, Belgian faces etched with terror. "The Americans hold St. Vith?" an old woman pleads in broken English. Elias has no lie left. The crossroads is cracking, the 106th's remnants forming ad hoc companies under 7th Armored Command. As they hole up in the church's crypt, shells rattling the stained glass above, the radio, miraculously alive, crackles with the bigger picture. The front's not just collapsing, it's imploding. Bastonia's besieged, the 101st cut off, and Montgomery's Brits racing south to plug the Salm River gap. But here in St. Vith's ruins, the delay is buying hours, not days. Elias clutches Sarah's letter, creased and worn, as Ellis coughs blood onto the stone floor. The order to fall back echoes hollow now, minutes later, and the whole line's gone, swallowed by the Ardennes moor. Outside, engines growl closer, a new assault brewing, and survival hangs by the thinnest thread. Echoes of defeat, December 18th, 1944, St. Vith, Belgium. The crypt beneath the shattered church reeks of damp stone and cordite, a tomb for the living as much as the dead. Lieutenant Elias Kane hunches in the gloom, the flicker of a single candle casting long shadows across the vaulted walls etched with centuries-old prayers. His M1 Garand rests across his knees, barrel fouled with the grime of endless fighting, while the last remnants of his platoon, Sergeant Harlan, Private Ellis, and Corporal Ruiz, huddle nearby, their breaths ragged echoes in the confined space. Outside, the Ardennes rages on, the growl of Panther engines and the staccato of MG-42s punctuating the night like a dirge. Shells from the 18th Volksgrenadier Division's 150mm howitzers thud intermittently, shaking dust from the ceiling in fine, choking clouds. Elias's hands tremble as he reloads a clip, the brass casings cold against his skin, each click a reminder of how thin their margin has grown. Harlan fiddles with the radio, its tubes glowing faintly, coaxing life from dying batteries. Static hisses, then a voice breaks through. General Alan Jones of the 106th, his tone clipped and weary from a fallback CP west of the Salm. "All units, this is division. St. Vith perimeter contracting at 600, evacuate wounded. Consolidate on the high ground. 7th Armoured's pulling back to Houffalize." Pull back. The words land like another wound. Elias's jaw clenches. They've bled for this crossroads for 2 days, turning it into a fortress of rubble and resolve, only for the order to come now, when the Germans' noose is all but cinched. Piper's Kampfgruppe has slipped south, their fuel-starved Panthers probing toward La Glaise, but the Volksgrenadiers here are relentless, inching forward with flamethrowers that turn cellars into infernos. You can almost hear the creak of the crypt door as Ruiz peers out, his face gaunt under the helmet liner, eyes scanning the alley beyond. "They're close, Lieutenant. Saw a Stug 4 rolling up the main street, tracks chewing through the barricades like paper." Elias nods, the weight of command settling heavier than the snow outside. His platoon, once 35 strong, is 4 souls now, linked by shared hell. The Losheim Gap's betrayal, the Ridge's slaughter, the forest ambushes that claim Marco and the others. Ellis coughs wetly in the corner, his shoulder infection raging despite the syringe of morphine, whispering deliriously about home in Cincinnati, sisters waiting with apple pie that he'll never taste. The evacuation begins at first light. A ghost march through St. Vith's ruins under cover of fog rolling in from the Arthur River. They slip out the crypt's rear, joining a ragged stream of GIs, tankers from the 31st Tank Battalion with blackened faces, engineers clutching demo charges, and medics hauling litters over debris. The town is a skeleton, The rail station, a cratered husk. Its sidings littered with overturned boxcars, spilling 105-meter rounds like spilled teeth. A knocked-out Sherman blocks the crossroads, its hull scarred by Panzerfaust hits, the acrid tang of burned cordite hanging thick. Elias leads them west along the N15 road, skirting minefields marked by hasty engineer tape, the group's boots crunching over frozen glass from bombed-out shops. German fire probes the retreat. Sniper rounds cracking off walls, a mortar barrage from the 62nd Volksgrenadier walking the line, forcing them into ditches choked with snowmelt. Harlan takes a grazing hit to the arm, cursing as blood soaks his sleeve, but he keeps the radio alive, relaying positions to the 275th Artillery. Adjust fire! Grid! Echo 7-9! Over! The response is a thunderous barrage. 150 BPM along, toms from the rear slamming into the German advance, buying precious minutes. But it's not enough. Ahead, a roadblock looms, wrecked US. Half-tracks from the 14th Cavalry, their crews long dead, now swarming with SS in captured jeeps. Skorzany's commandos again, shouting, "Pull over!" in flawless English, MP40s hidden until it's too late. Elias signals halt, dropping prone in a hedgerow. Flank left, Ruiz, bazooka on that lead vehicle. The corporal shoulders the launcher, the rocket whooshing out in a trail of smoke. Slamming into the jeep's grill, it erupts in flames, scattering the ambushers, but draws a hail of return fire. Bullets rake the hedge, stitching the air with deadly precision. Ellis screams as one tears through his thigh, collapsing in a heap. Elias drags him back, applying pressure with trembling hands, the metallic scent of blood mixing with the earth. "Stay with me, kid. We're almost through." But Ellis's eyes glaze, his last words a mumble. "Tell 'em. We held." They break through at a cost, Harlan covering with his Thompson submachine gun, emptying drums into the shadows until it's empty, rejoining the main withdrawal column near the Salm River bridges. The 7th Armoured's rearguard, M10 tank destroyers with 3-inch guns, holds the span, their barrels traversing to blast at pursuing half-tracks. General Clark's orders filter down via runners. "Cross and blow it behind you. Bastonia's the new anchor. 101st's digging in there." Elias's group stumbles onto a flatbed truck from the 168th Engineer Combat Battalion, jostling with wounded as it lurches west, the bridge vanishing in a plume of fire and smoke behind them. The blast wave rattles windows miles away, severing the German pursuit for now. By midday, they're in Houffalize, a shelled village turned staging area where the remnants of the 106th, down to battalion strength, regroup under canvas tents flapping in the wind. Elias reports to a harried major from the Faint Corps, his voice flat. "Easy company, 2nd Battalion, 16 KIA since the gap. 4 survivors." The major nods. No time for sympathy, handing out sea rations and fresh clips. Comms buzz with the broader collapse. The 28th Infantry Division shattered south, the 99th holding Elsenborn by a thread, and Patton's Third Army grinding north through the snow to relieve Bastogne. Hitler's Wacht am Rhein has punched a 60-mile salient, the deepest since the bulge began. But fuel shortages are starving the panzers. Piper's Tigers immobilized near Trois Ponts, crews siphoning gas from captured trucks. Elias sinks against a sandbag wall, exhaustion crashing like a wave. Sarah's letter crinkles in his pocket, words blurring through unshed tears. They've fallen back as ordered, but the front didn't just collapse, it imploded, costing 8. Udreo Ziru captured from the 106th alone, the Ghost Division mauled into oblivion. St. Vith's delay bought Montgomery time to pivot, the Allies' counter-offensive already stirring, but at what price? Harlan slumps nearby, bandaging his arm, muttering, "We stopped 'em cold at the ridge, sir. Gave 'em hell." Ruiz stares east, silent, his bazooka propped like a gravestone. As night falls, the wind carries the distant rumble of Shermans reforming the line, and Elias wonders if the Ardennes ghosts will ever quiet. The war's not over, far from it. But in this frozen interlude, the human cost etches deeper than any map. They've survived the fall, but the scars of that frantic retreat, the minutes when everything shattered, will linger long after the snow melts. The front holds anew, fragile and reforged, but the echo of collapse whispers on, a warning in the winter wind.